Title: The Trenches of Hope. In a dusty, dilapidated corner of the world, a boy named Alex was born into a life of hardship. The trenches he called home were no ordinary ones. They were the deep, dark pits of poverty, where the sun barely touched the earth and where hope was as scarce as food. The community around him was filled with people who had little, and the little they had was often taken away by the unforgiving forces of life. Alex's family could barely provide for themselves, let alone for their children. Every meal was a struggle, a daily battle to keep hunger at bay. His parents, hardworking yet constantly in debt, did their best to keep a roof over their heads, but often, that roof was no more than a few sheets of rusted tin held together by the remnants of broken wooden beams. The stench of poverty filled every corner of their small home, but it was home nonetheless. School was a distant dream for Alex, a fleeting thought that seemed unreachable. But despite the harsh conditions, his parents valued education more than anything else. "Education will be your way out, Alex," his mother would whisper to him each night, as she tucked him into bed. "It's the only way you can rise above this." Though there was never enough to eat, there was always love. The love of his mother, his father, and his younger sister kept him going. It was this love that drove Alex to rise above the dirt and despair of the trenches, to dream of a life better than the one he was born into. Despite their financial struggles, Alex's parents made sure he attended public school, believing that education could unlock the doors to a better future. However, it wasn't easy. Every day, Alex faced the harsh reality that he didn't have the basics that every other child seemed to take for granted. He went to school with worn-out shoes, tattered clothes, and an empty satchel. The other children would often laugh and mock him for his lack of proper materials. They had shiny new books, pens, and pencils, while Alex had nothing but his determination. Some days, when the teachers noticed he didn't have a book or a pen, they would send him home, and Alex would have to face the shame of returning to his parents without the promise of education that day. But despite the ridicule, despite the hunger in his belly and the shame of not having the necessary materials, Alex never gave up. His mind was sharp, and he was determined. At night, he would borrow books from friends, and whenever he could, he would sit by the dim light of a candle, studying with what little he had. He wasn't deterred by the conditions. He knew that education was his key to escaping the suffocating grip of the trenches. In the trenches, friends were like family. Alex had two childhood friends, Mark and Danny. They grew up together, playing in the dirt and dreaming of a life beyond their bleak surroundings. While they shared a bond of friendship, they were different in many ways. Mark was a good-natured boy, just like Alex, and he also dreamed of something better. He would spend hours with Alex studying, sharing his books, and helping him when he was sent home from school for lack of materials. Danny, on the other hand, was different. He had a rebellious streak. Life in the trenches had hardened him early, and he quickly learned that survival meant doing whatever it took to get by. Danny was always looking for shortcuts, ways to make money quickly, and ways to get ahead even if it meant breaking the law. One day, as they sat on the edge of the trench, Danny suggested something that made Alex's heart race with fear. "You know, Alex," Danny said, his voice low and conspiratorial, "we could make money fast if we just borrowed some stuff from the stores. Nobody would notice, and we could sell it. People are always looking to buy things, and we could make a lot of cash." Alex stared at him in disbelief. "Steal?" he asked, his voice trembling. "That's wrong, Danny." But Danny wasn't deterred. "Come on, Alex, it's the only way. Look around. We're stuck here, in this hole, with no way out. You're not going to get anywhere by just studying. You need money to survive. And you won't be poor forever if we do this." Alex shook his head, his heart pounding. "No, Danny, I refuse to go down that path. I won't become like everyone else. I'm going to make it out through my own efforts, through hard work and education." Mark, who had been silent until then, spoke up. "I don't know, Alex. I kind of agree with Danny. Things are tough, and if we don't do something, we'll be stuck here forever. But I understand why you don't want to steal. I'll stick with you." Mark's decision wasn't easy, but in his heart, he knew that Alex was right. They didn't need to resort to theft. They could make it out of the trenches if they kept pushing forward. But Danny wasn't convinced. He saw the world differently. "You guys are wasting your time. You'll see. I'll make it big before you do, he sneered. As time passed, Alex continued to focus on his studies, working harder than ever to achieve his dreams. Mark stuck with him, and together, they excelled in school, despite the odds. They studied in the dead of night, helped each other with homework, and never let the hardships of life break their spirit. They both knew that their future depended on their education. Danny, however, began to go down a different path. He got involved in shady dealings, stealing from the markets, selling stolen goods, and making connections with dangerous people. His rise was quick and seemingly effortless. Money flowed into his hands, and he became a figure in the trenches that people whispered about. He bought things for his family, things that Alex could only dream of, and soon he was wearing clothes that looked far too expensive for someone in their situation. At first, Alex couldn't understand it. How could Danny, the same boy he grew up with, make such a choice? But as the years went by, he realized that Danny had chosen a different route, a route that was fast, but ultimately dangerous. As Alex and Mark continued their education, their hard work paid off. They graduated high school with top marks, earning scholarships to attend college. The day they both received their acceptance letters was a day of triumph, a day when their hard work and sacrifice had finally paid off. But Danny's life took a darker turn. He had been caught in a series of scams and had made enemies along the way. The police were soon after him, and he became a fugitive, always looking over his shoulder. He couldn't enjoy his ill-gotten wealth for long, as the fear of being caught overshadowed his every move. Alex's journey, however, was just beginning. He worked tirelessly in college, studying every subject with a passion that came from the depths of his soul. His parents, though poor, supported him as best as they could, and Alex never forgot the sacrifices they made for his education. He worked part-time jobs, spent sleepless nights studying, and slowly, inch by inch, he climbed out of the trenches. Upon graduation, Alex landed a job at a prestigious oil company, one that paid him a salary far beyond anything he had ever imagined. It was a hard-earned victory, and Alex knew that it was just the beginning. He worked his way up the corporate ladder, proving himself to be an invaluable asset to the company. His success was a result of his unwavering commitment to his dreams. Meanwhile, Mark also found success, though in a different way. He became a respected entrepreneur, starting his own business and slowly building a reputation for himself. The two of them, though living in different worlds, stayed close friends, always encouraging each other to reach higher. Danny, however, was living in constant fear. He had made his fortune through scams, but the police were always on his trail. He couldn't step outside without worrying about being caught. His wealth, though large, was a prison. He couldn't enjoy it freely, and the guilt of his past weighed heavily on him. Years passed, and though he evaded the police, he was never truly free. Years later, as Alex looked back on his journey, he realized that the greatest lesson he had learned was the power of hard work, integrity, and perseverance. He had climbed from the depths of the trenches, from a life of poverty and despair, to a life of success and fulfillment. His dreams had come true, not because of shortcuts or dishonesty, but because of his relentless pursuit of education and his commitment to doing the right thing. Mark, too, was living a life he could be proud of, though his path was different. They both had achieved success, but their success was rooted in their values they had held onto in the face of adversity. Danny, on the other hand, had everything he ever wanted in terms of wealth, but he was living a life of fear. The money he had stolen couldn't bring him peace, and the fear of being caught weighed him down every single day. As the years went by, Danny began to regret his choices. He had chosen the easy way, but it had cost him his peace of mind. One day, Danny reached out to Alex. "I should have listened to you," he said, his voice trembling. "I thought I could get away with it, but now I see the truth. I've been living a lie. I'm sorry, Alex. I'm sorry for everything." Alex, now a successful man, smiled softly. "It's never too late to change, Danny. The past is behind you, but the future is still ahead. It's not too late to do the right thing." Danny nodded, tears welling up in his eyes. "Thank you, Alex. You're the only friend I have left." Epilogue. The moral of the story: Alex's story is a testament